Grand Tourers are going for some insane money nowadays, brand new, but they also depreciate very quickly. So today I'm going to talk to you about 5 in particular that you could have bought last year in 2023, brand new, and just a year later they are way cheaper. Let's get straight into it. Hit the like button to see more videos like this, subscribe as well if you're new. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's get this video started with the Lexus LC 500, a car built in the same factory as the hallowed LFA, which also takes a few design features from that legendary Lexus, which is probably helped by the fact that many of the master craftsmen who built the LFA were involved in the build of the LC. If you had bought one of these in 2023, it would have cost you around £102,000 in completely base spec, which is a lot of money for a mass-produced Lexus, to be honest. Now though, they start at around the 87k mark, with plenty available for around 90k. That means depreciation of 14.7% in the space of 1 year, or £15,000 in total, meaning it's the least most depreciated and the least most money lost car on this list. And that's good news, as some of that money saved can be put into fueling that 5-litre V8 engine, which makes 470 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Not insanely fast, but not bad either. So why has this car depreciated so much in just a year? Well, if you look at relatively low mileage examples from around 2017, which really aren't that different to the ones that have just been released, prices are even lower. We're talking at around the 40k region. It's mass produced, as I mentioned, and from a brand like Lexus, which, yes, is a luxury brand, but doesn't carry the weight of some of its competitors here in the UK. Though it might be a great car in terms of looks, performance, usability, and all the rest, there's no single fact that would actively be keeping the values high. That's not to say there isn't a lovely car though. The interior is stunning on them, a super nice place to be, and the exterior looks are clean and sharp, and with an engine that gives an exceptional exhaust note. It doesn't have the makings of a cheap LFA because there are too many of them, but with a design like that, I think that one day these will definitely look back upon fondly. At this kind of price range, it's hard to ignore McLaren when you're talking about depreciation, as though the brand has managed to shake a lot of the depreciation reputation that it had in the late 2010s, the GT is the least McLaren-like McLaren in the lineup, and therefore still gets some pretty aggressive depreciation in its first couple of years. Even though they aren't like most McLarens, they do come with a very typical McLaren engine, a 4-litre twin-turbocharged V8 block producing 611 brake horsepower, which will get them to 60 in 3.1 seconds, making this the joint quickest car on the list and very much putting it into supercar territory in terms of performance. That is of course in part thanks to it being based on the 720S, which is undeniably a supercar. To buy a brand new GT though, you would need to spend around the 167k mark in 2023, whereas today you'll find 2023 models starting at £138,000 with multiple available for the 140k mark. That means £29,000 lost, almost double the Lexus, or 17.37% lost in the space of just 1 year, which for a car of this price range is quite a lot. So to build on my point, McLaren is a company known for building some of the most powerful, some of the fastest, some of the most impressive looking, and some of the least practical cars on the market. They appeal to people who like carbon fiber, dihedral doors, and lots of other flary bits. So when you think about the McLaren GT, which dials back the aggressive styling to the 720S and loses some of the exposed raw materials, replacing them with nice premium leather and the likes, which is a boot big enough to fit a golf bag in and drops some of the power to make it more comfortable as a car to cruise around in, it doesn't really fall in line with the rest of the cars you expect from McLaren. It would be like if I started doing YouTube videos on motorbikes. Yes, I like motorbikes, yes, I'm sure many of you like motorbikes too, but it's not what you expect to see from me, and you might instead like to get your motorbike content from somewhere else. Same goes for the GT, you might want to get your 170k Grand Tourer from somewhere like Bentley or Aston Martin instead. Next up we have one of the best looking new Mercedes, at least in my opinion, the SL63 AMG, which has effectively taken over from 2 cars, the previous generation SL of course, and the AMG GT as the flagship Grand Tourer for the brand. In the past, a 63 AMG would have had a massive 6.2 litre V8, but today with stricter regulations, this simply isn't possible. Instead they come with a 4 litre twin turbocharged V8 block, which puts out 576 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 60 in 3.5 seconds, and what's even more interesting about these is that they're all-wheel drive, quite unlike previous SL and AMG GT generations. Their engine is also now pretty typical of AMG Mercedes, but also cars like the Aston Martin Vantage and the DBX2. The price is also insanely high on them as well, as in 2023 a brand new one would cost you around £172,000, whereas today you'll be looking at spending around 140k at the bottom end, with a few sitting more at around the 150 to 160k region. That means total depreciation of £32,000 or 18.6% in the space of just 1 year, which is a pretty significant loss. When you look at price of the AMG GTR Roadster, which this car replaces, it started at around 180k back in 2020. Today you'll find them around 130k despite being pretty rare and scratching a much more aggressive itch than the SL63, i.e. being a convertible track car. If that rarer, more exclusive, arguably more exotic Mercedes product can depreciate so much in just 4 years, there's no reason why the SL, however lovely it is, won't depreciate as well. Add on the 2 cheaper versions of this car as well to drag this one down in terms of exclusivity, as they do all look pretty much the same, plus the fact that previous generation SLs are available incredibly cheap. I'm talking sub 10k in many cases, and you've definitely got a car ripe for depreciation. It is a lovely car all in though. It really does look good with its AMG GT style front end and sliced down rear end, plus the sporty but comfortable interior. I've seen these out on Grand Tours in Portugal and they definitely are the perfect car for the job. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you're, then do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new. And let me know in the comments down below, how many years should you wait to buy a car? Should you buy it brand new, or is like 4 years, 5 years the perfect time to wait? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Given the recent climate around 1, electric car depreciation, 2, Porsche depreciation, and 3, very specifically, Porsche Taycan depreciation, it would be hard to not include the Taycan in this video, as though I do genuinely think it's a great looking car with some incredible specs and performance, it's not been doing so good on the depreciation front. In its absolute base spec, this EV puts out 402 brake horsepower and will manage 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, and for that same base spec, in 2023 it would have cost you around £80,000 without making any changes on the Porsche configurator, which I can promise you is a very difficult thing to do if you haven't tried it before. Today, however, used 2023 models start at around £64,000, with plenty available around the 67k mark. So in just 1 year, these are depreciated by 20% in value, or £16,000 total, which actually makes it the second least depreciated car in terms of actual pounds lost. Let's start with the main factor behind this though, the fact that it's an electric car. The electric car market suffers from people not backing the longevity of the batteries, and also from the loss of potential tax benefits from buying into one of these. In the past, it made a lot of sense to have an electric car as a daily driver, as the government would give you a tax kickback for it that paid part of the price of the car, and you benefited from not paying additional surcharges in cities and the likes. Sadly, a lot of these benefits have been rolled back now, which makes these less enticing, and a lot of the other benefits still available, like getting one as a company car, often only applies to brand new ones, so the used market gets flooded with cars that serve no greater benefit than anything else out there. Porsche, however, have always been pretty good on residuals, but this mostly applies to their 911s and more special versions of other cars. As a base spec Taycan, you really can't expect the badge alone to keep them from depreciating, given how mass produced they are. So that, plus the benefits, plus the skepticism around battery life longer term, you have the perfect storm for a car that depreciates rapidly, however nice they look and feel. Taking the top spot on this video thanks to its insane levels of depreciation is this, the BMW M8 Competition, which also might arguably be the most fit for purpose Grand Tourer on this list, in part because it's absolutely massive and burly in all the right places, at least in my opinion. To buy yourself one of these in 2023 brand new, you would have spent £136,000 at the bottom end with no spec options, yet now you'll only need to spend a minimum of 96k, with plenty sitting at under the 110k mark. And what's worse, some of these cars are delivery mileage that haven't sold, so have effectively depreciated before anyone's even bought them. So clearly the interest just hasn't been there to shift all of the stock available. That's surprising when you consider that this is the most powerful car on this list, thanks to its 4.4 litre V8 engine that makes 616 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.1 seconds, matching the McLaren, which is definitely a more exotic car than this. The additional weight this car carries is obviously therefore offset by its 5 extra horsepower and the all-wheel drive. This car comes in 3 main specs, the coupe, Coupe Convertible and Grand Coupe, which is basically a 4-door coupe vibe, and personally I'd have to go for the coupe all-in, or maybe the convertible if I lived in a country that meant I never had to put the soft top roof up. It really is a shame that BMW have sacked off the hardtop convertible roofs of the past. But in terms of depreciation, this is a very expensive BMW Grand Tourer for the money. The M4 starts at around 90k, the M3 similar, the M2 around 65k, and then this comes along and is an absolute outlier, being that much more expensive. Of course, BMW wants a competitor to the Mercedes S-Class Coupe, but it really does put a huge gap between itself and the other M cars in terms of price, which takes a certain type of client to pay. And so there you have it, 5 Grand Tourers that depreciated a bunch in their first year of ownership. If you want to see some depreciated luxury cars instead, then do click up here, subscribe as well down here. Huge thanks to the patrons for their support, and you guys as well for watching. I'll see you in the next one.